Welcome to the Erasmus Foundation podcast. My name is Paul Nugent. Are you looking for answers to life and its meaning? Then this may well be the very podcast you need to listen to. In a series of podcasts, we are going to look at the difficult questions of life and apply spiritual knowledge to find out the answers. Hello. Today we are going to look at the subject, the importance of silence. And with me today I have Julia and Corinne. Now, we'll start with you, Corinne, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my first question is quite a simple one. What do you mean by the importance of silence? Is silence just nothing?
Silence can be explained in two ways. Silence is the absence of noise, and it also means keeping silent, saying nothing. Now, no, silence is not a void and it is not an emptiness. Really, it is very important because it gives us space to think, it feeds our minds, and it also allows us to listen. I believe that originally on the earth, there were the sounds, natural sounds of life, birds singing, the sound of the wind blowing, the rain falling, even the sound of thunder, perhaps the sort of sounds we can hear when we go for a walk in a forest. And those, I believe, are part of the natural law. But gradually, mankind has created noise, especially since recent years, many mechanic noises are polluting our living space. And therefore, we need silence to help us to be at peace and to quiet our brain. I believe this has occurred to many of us. Sometimes we are in a place and there is repetitive noise near us, and we do not really notice this noise. But when it stops, we think, oh, really? How good it feels when it stops. So I am sure it might mean that for us, silence is more natural than having noise surrounding us. We should naturally seek silence. Still, I know some people who do not like silence. They put the radio on, they put the TV on, they need something. And perhaps these people do not feel too comfortable with themselves. But really, for me, silence is very necessary. For example, when I get up in the morning, I do a little prayer and I really need silence. And also to lead a spiritual way of life. Silence is very important for meditation. We need silence to allow the brain to quiet so that the mind can surface. Now, at the end of the day, it can be a good thing as well to reflect on that day and to be in silence and think of what has been done during the day, perhaps the people I met, how I behaved, if I have been doing perhaps positive things, or perhaps if I have been walking in error. All this can only be done if there is silence. We know that thought is very important. It is important to apply positive thought, really. When we are with a person and we are perhaps attuned with this person, to just be sitting together in silence can be a sharing, really. There is no need to speak. We just share and have pleasure to be together. And sometimes in silence, this can have perhaps a greater value, I think.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you. Now, Julia, the thing about sound is that being a human being, only a range of sound that we can hear. But there are many, many frequencies out there in the universe. And I'm wondering whether there is such a thing as silence, or whether there's always a sound, but we can't pick it up.
Well, my own experience is difficult to answer that completely, but I believe, from what I've understood from our tutors, that within silence there is a sound. And I believe if you can meditate very deeply, which I personally don't have the ability to do, but I believe you can go down through and into a silence. And I think I'm right in saying that there is a sound, but obviously it must be extremely peaceful. So I would probably say, Paul, that there's always a sound, because I'm feeling that the great mind has created everything that is living, and so isn't sound part of life? So there must be something within it. And so I would say that, there is nothing that has no sound at all. But I would imagine if you're experiencing that very deep silence, that very pure silence, it must be so wonderful, so peaceful. I mean, I do feel I have experienced a certain amount of peace from silence that I get when I meditate. And also, I think that the more comfortable you are about yourself and within yourself, the more comfortable you are with silence. So, my own journey to date, I know that I used to find silence uncomfortable and awkward, and would often try and fill it with words. But as I've become a bit more confident and know myself better, which we're always talking about, getting to know yourself, then I feel that naturally sound and noise, I think, affects you more. And also you can sit quietly, as Corinne has said, with another person and relax and not be uncomfortable with some periods of silence. And it can be very peaceful and very meaningful. So I think that at the moment the world is noisy generally. We often talk about noise pollution. And I think that just reflects the world at the moment, because it is a very physical and material world. So it will be interesting to see and perhaps to hear how the sound changes and diminishes as people think about things a little bit more and surface their minds more, because the mind won't want this intrusive noise. It will want more quiet times and spaces, and will perhaps seek people who are quieter too. So I think it's an interesting time we are in. And I would imagine that also the noise that we have around us, or many people do, is causing a lot of stress, it must be quite difficult for some people to find a quiet space to sit maybe and meditate. So that I can appreciate must be quite hard. But, it is important for our spirit. It's important for our mind so that we can think about things, think about ourselves, think about others and our world. And obviously meditation, as we believe here, is really important with that. So to come full circle to your question, Paul, I think that there is a sound with silence. And I think the depth of silence probably reflects where you have got to in your own evolution as a spirit, and perhaps within your own appreciation of yourself and in how comfortable you are with yourself.
So, Julie, would you say there are good and bad sounds?
Yes. Oh, yes. Because, just getting out into nature, there's wonderful sounds. Some of them might be quite loud, but because it's natural, it's not impactful or intrusive. But bad sounds, I think, can come from, say, someone who is speaking falsehood. There's an aggression, anger. There's obviously loud physical, mechanical sounds. There's non-stop sound, non-stop chatter. And as Corinne has said, sometimes when something stops, you really breathe out a sigh of relief because it's been quite impactful. So yes, I would say there are good and bad sounds. And some sounds are just unbearable, I think. There's also the sound which is, they call it Chinese torture, the drip, drip of the tap. So it might not be that loud, but it is tortuous. It's really quite stressful.
Adina, would you like to say something on the subject?
Yes, please, if I may.
Of course.
Just to say, really, as spirit evolve, their appreciation of sound in spirit grows. And really, the mind, as it evolves, gains clarity of vision, clarity of understanding, clarity of many, many things. As colors are appreciated in different ways, to an older spirit as opposed to a younger spirit. And again, sound has that attribute as well. So that as the spirit evolves, becomes more refined, so does the auric sound of that spirit become more refined. Their appreciation of sound becomes more refined and more beautiful. And it develops, it grows. Sound is not fully understood within the earth as it might be. And man has to come to evaluate sound spiritually, which will come in time as he matures, his earth matures, and spirit develops and matures within the earth, which is your future.
The Erasmus Foundation is a spiritual teaching and healing foundation based in Laxfield, Suffolk in the United Kingdom. We have a webpage, www.erasmus-foundation.org. If you would like to be a guest on our podcast, or indeed have further questions for us, then please contact me on paul@erasmus-foundation.org, and we'll do our best to accommodate you. Thank you very much for listening.